All right, it is 1. So thank you, everybody, and welcome to the Michigan Works Association 2021 conference. And thank you for attending the session. My name is Sally Richard, and I'm the Quality Assurance Manager with the Upper Peninsula Michigan Works. On behalf of the staff at the association and all our sponsors, we thank you for being part of the conference and this session, which is training for tomorrow. Once the session is complete, make sure that you take a chance to visit the exhibitor booths during the designated times and throughout the rest of the conference. So before we begin, a couple of housekeeping. I did put some things in the chat, but also please make sure that you're muted if you are on here. So like myself, I'll make sure to be muted during the presentation. And throughout, there is a section for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A portion that's separate from the chat. And throughout the presentation, there will be designated pauses to address your questions. We're also looking forward to any feedback you have from this session and the conference overall. So make sure once complete that you take the survey. I did put a link in the chat, but I will also put it in at the end. This presentation, along with others that you've attended or might miss due to attending another one, will be available on the association's website. So now to introduce our presenters, we have 2 coworkers of mine, which I am excited to announce. We have Hannah Duckwall. She's our training manager at UP Michigan Works, and Tom Audio, who is our training specialist. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much, Sally, for the introduction. I'm going to take a moment here just to share my screen with you all. Okay. So like Sally said, my name is Hannah Duckwall. I'm the training manager here at Upper Peninsula Michigan Works. I'm joined with my coworker, Tom Audio, who's a training specialist here at Upper Peninsula Michigan Works. So we both happen to work out of the same office, so we're excited to be here in person together to do this presentation for you all. We're really happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. So we are calling this session Training for Tomorrow because what we're doing as an organization is we're ensuring our staff is well trained for the future of our organization and also for the future of the community we serve. So we see this as a way to just tell you our story about how we address and approach training here at our organization.
So to kick things off, we just wanted to share with you guys a little bit about why we love training. And for me personally, I really love that it sort of can be thought of as like a puzzle or a game sometimes. In that to effectively train somebody, sometimes you have to figure out what different strategies or situations work for different people or scenarios. Sometimes you even have the opportunity to solve a problem before most people realize that it is a problem. And the best part is that you get to be creative a lot of the times when you're doing that.
And my favorite thing about training is those light bulb moments when you see someone have that aha, and they've made a connection and they can see how they're going to use that information to solve a problem or it's made a connection to something else that they know. So that's what really gets us going with training. So I saw this quote recently, it really spoke to me. And it is that the most meaningful way to succeed is to help others succeed. And really, this is what we're trying to do through training our organization. We're here to serve our employees so they can in turn serve our community. And our motto at Upper Peninsula Michigan Works is get ready to win. We apply that to everyone. You're going to see it. It's on our template of our presentation. We want to help employers get ready to win and job seekers get ready to win and each other get ready to win. And so this quote comes from Adam Grant, who is an organizational psychologist who studies givers and takers in the workplace. And he found that in order to really help create a culture of help seeking in the organization is when there's a designated helper. And we as a training team are that designated helper to our staff to get help and to learn things, to continue to grow and develop.
So our goal for today, over the course of the presentation, we're going to show you how you can learn to up your internal training game because it's important. So over the course of the presentation, we will show you some tools and strategies that we found that have worked for us. And we realize that everybody is in sort of a unique situation. So feel free to adapt these strategies and tools however you see fit to get them to work for you. We're going to show you that over the course of the presentation that this has been something that's been tough for us to get right as an organization. We've experienced a high cost of turnover over the years, challenges with employee morale, and we've noticed some knowledge vacuums that have been created as well. So we also want to show you over the presentation how we've worked to fix those issues.
So to share a little background, previously our organization had between a 25 to a 45% turnover rate. So one of our big goals that we had was to increase our retention rates and to increase consistency across the region so that no matter which American Job Center a person is walking into, whether it's the east side of the UP or the west side of the UP, because we serve the whole UP as a region, that person is going to get the same service. So in January of 2020, we created a new team with a focus specifically on staff training. And one of the number one things that we joke about that we did is that our HR director banned job shadowing. And I think this job shadowing has a different connotation depending on your experience with it, right? So we were starting to kind of gain a not so great connotation with job shadowing, that it was sort of this passive, agendaless thing that was filling up time. And so, this was our first step in looking at, okay, how can we be really intentional with that? So we still have job shadowing in a sense, but we don't call it that anymore. So that was our little funny story of like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to get this started? So the training team connects resources and departments. That's one of the big things that we do to make sure that people are able to get what they need from all the different areas that impact our jobs. We promote and facilitate training opportunities and professional development. So when there are trainings coming out from Michigan Works Association and Workforce GPS and others who crisscross and overlap with the kind of training that would benefit our staff, we're making sure that we're promoting that to our employees to be able to take advantage of those training opportunities. We also coordinate onboarding for our new staff, both general onboarding that everybody gets, and then role-specific onboarding depending on what you're doing with us here at the organization. And we also help identify training resources for participants. So we're working on that Michigan Training Connect eligible training provider list. We're making sure that we have close ties with training programs that are related to a lot of grants that we're working on right now with that focus on training. So we consider ourselves experts in training, but generalists across the departments. So we're able to use our subject matter experts, such as Sally and other people in our organization who have a lot of knowledge in one area, because that's both valuing and recognizing the talents that our staff have, and they're able to contribute to our organization. So I kind of liken this to, if you've heard of the IKEA effect, when you because you helped create something and build something, you put more value in it. We're doing this with our training programs that we've created here within our organization.
So about the training team, there's three of us. There's the two of us here in front of you today, and then we have a third member as well. And we all have a specific role on the team that we play. So Hannah here is sort of our lead and strategy. She oversees the vision for our internal training. And then there's me. I'm responsible for developing a lot of the content that we push out, whether it be videos or written guide materials. And then we also have what we call the technical training coordinator. And she sits at the intersection of IT and training. Since we recognize that IT is so heavily, or technology is so heavily integrated into what we do every day, we want to sort of have somebody who has that as their expertise. And they have sort of a lot of knowledge of the platforms and tools that we use, such as Salesforce or Talent Connect or the Microsoft Suite as well. So at the beginning of 2020, we conducted a training needs assessment on our organization, and we got a 76% response rate, so it was pretty good. And of those responses, we learned that 23% said that they didn't receive onboarding or that they perceived that they didn't receive onboarding. So that was a pretty big yikes moment for us. And we also learned from that survey that 30% of our staff said that they loved the camaraderie aspect of training. So we learned that it was great that our staff really liked working together. So what were we able to really gather from this data?
So with that, then we found opportunities for growth. So obviously onboarding was a big opportunity of growth for us. And looking at internal professional development, how can we help people continue to grow and develop within their roles here, development paths so that we could supplement with other training opportunities, communication about how, what's out there, and then continuing to establish those subject matter experts. So we found a 2018 Workforce Learning Report from LinkedIn, which indicates that 93% of employees would stay at a company longer if it invested in their careers. So this speaks directly to retention. So really, it's more of an expectation than a perk today that an organization is going to develop their staff and help them continue to develop the tools they need to not only do their jobs, but to move into new opportunities. So I thought I would start with a bad training scenario, because we've all been there. So I thought I would share one of mine from my own past experience. This is a true story from a former job. Not this job, it was a long time ago. So I had recently gotten back from the Peace Corps, and this was my first big professional job. I was really excited. So I get all ready and I go into my first day on the job and introduce myself, and nobody knew I was coming. So that came a little bit as a surprise. So then my boss was gone for most of the day, so I didn't know who to ask for help. And when you're the new person, the last thing you want to do is just prevail yourself upon all these new people that you're going to be working with. So that was tricky. I was pretty much what I did most of the day was read a manual alone in a cubicle. And this was a sad cubicle, you guys. This looked like an interrogation room. There was nothing in it, just in this little room by myself reading a manual. I didn't have a key to use the bathroom, so I had to keep asking for help to swipe in and out, which is kind of awkward. And I had to figure out how to use new technology. And, like I said, I was just coming back from the Peace Corps. So even though I'm a technologically savvy person, I had never seen a smartphone before. That's something that happened when I was gone. It did not reach me. I came back what is this thing? So there was a big learning curve there. And I tell this story just because this is a first impression that we make for our employees when we bring them in. That first day is our first impression. And so while I did fine in that job and I went on to do, to learn a lot and it ended up being a good working environment, we all have an opportunity on that first day to do something really great and make it a really good day for that person. Which brings us to our first section on onboarding. And I guess before I dive in, I'll just ask Sally if there are any questions about the background so far.
Not yet. You're good to go.
Okay, I'm going to dive right in. Okay, so for onboarding, retention efforts really start on day one. And a Gallup poll released in 2017 indicates that only 12% of U.S. employees agree that their company does a good job with onboarding. And so that means really there's room for improvement for all of us here. So take heart. We're going to talk about what we've done to work on improving our own onboarding process.
So we've developed a new step-by-step process that we go through each time we bring a new employee on board. And the first step in that is communication. So we need to notify all the key players that are involved that a new staff member will be joining us. So that's everybody from HR to their supervisor to IT. everybody who needs to know. We have a workflow in place to sort of get everything moving, and some tasks are dependent on others. So we need to let IT know to get an Outlook account set up for them before we can start scheduling any events or anything like that. So after everybody is notified, we begin organizing all the information. So on our Sharepoint site, we have folders that we create for each new hire that we bring on board. So you can see an example of that on the screen right now. This folder contains all of the onboarding material for that new hire. So it can be the new hire checklist, everything that we need to do to make sure that they're brought on successfully. It also contains any information that they may need, so any guides or information that they'll need for their job once they start. And what's great about this folder is it's one place that not only organizes all of our documents, but it also serves as a record for the training that the employee will be going through. And this helps us keep a consistent process for each time we bring somebody on. We have a nice little copy, paste, and personalize is what we say. So we can copy this folder, paste it, and start over again. And then if they're in a new role and we need to change a small detail or anything, we can quickly do that. From there, we start planning everything out. So when we bring new staff on board, we like to ensure that their first 2 days look the exact same, regardless of their role or location in the organization. We think it's pretty important that all staff have a consistent onboarding experience. So what you're seeing on screen right now is our onboarding checklist. And this enables us to sort of manage the workflow and make sure everything's progressing as we expect it to. Also, during the first few days, when employees are going through this general onboarding and getting a feel for everything, that's sort of the opportunity for us to make connections within the organization as well, introduce them to relevant staff members, their supervisor, and we also have an opportunity to recognize their talents and strengths as well over the first couple of days. And we also want to explain to them why their position is important and how it fits into the grand vision of UPMW. And from there, we go on to scheduling. So we create a new hire schedule through a specific Outlook account that we have designed specifically for onboarding new hires. So this account is managed by our training team and then our HR director as well. So we are the ones responsible for actually scheduling each individual training item for the new hire. And that's sort of what you're looking at on screen right now. So we call this our third-party scheduling system. So we, as the training team, can schedule out each item, and then the trainer and trainee will receive those invitations on their own personal Outlook calendars so that they can just click and join into the meeting easily like that. That way, we're the ones responsible for coordinating everything. And you can even see on screen there, onboarding is the organizer for each training item, and then the trainer and trainee can just sort of sign in when they need to.
So our final step is showtime. We roll out the red carpet and try to make it a really nice first day for our new employees. We implement our plan that Tom walked you through. And we also have a welcome video for a consistent welcome so that, no matter what that day is like, every new person can have a consistent welcome to our organization and learn a little bit more about how we operate and who does what in the organization. Because that's one of the challenges we have of being spread across the UP. Sometimes we don't meet everybody on our first day. So this is a way still to meet everyone. And so in order to share this, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and reshare it. Bear with me for a moment here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and show you a clip of this video. It's a larger video, but we distilled it down to one little clip for you.
Hi, and welcome to the team. I'm Michelle View, Chief Financial Officer for Upper Peninsula Michigan Works. In addition to our other amazing teams, we work behind the scenes to help keep things running smoothly. We call our accounting department Fiscal, which currently has 4 staff members handling payroll, accounts payable, purchasing, fleet vehicles, travel arrangements, contracts, building leases, grants management, budgeting, taxes and insurance, audits, fiscal monitoring.
So I think that may have cut out for you there, but it gives you the idea of the gist of it. So I'll reshare here in just a moment. Thanks for bearing with me as I toggle back and forth. Okay. Well, that was the hardest thing that we had to do during the whole presentation. So we made it. So in creating a comprehensive onboarding system like we did, we realized that we were engaging our 6 core values as an organization. And so recently our team went through our core values as an organization to see, okay, how are we living our values through our onboarding system? And I'll just share with you what we found. So for integrity, we're communicating better. It's helped us with our accountability and our transparency to see who's responsible for tasks so we can have integrity in the work that we do. Innovation, we've taken a creative approach to developing new tools to help enable a more systematic approach to onboarding. We have templates and integrated lists and things that just didn't exist before that we can use to make it a consistent experience every time. With empowerment, more people are involved in the onboarding process, and we're all working together to help new employees succeed. So like we said before, that's one of our main goals is we're succeeding by helping others succeed. For teamwork, same thing. It takes an entire team to make it all run smoothly. Intentionality, each role has a specific training program, a training plan, and milestones for each of those training plans that we have for each role. And we're outcome driven because we want to retain our well-trained talent. And at the end, we're going to talk about whether or not we've been able to do that. So before we move on to internal training, I'll open up that onboarding section and see, Sally, if we've had any questions pop in.
Yes, we do. We have one question, and it says, how long have you been utilizing this onboarding process, and what is the feedback you are receiving from new staff that have been through it? Have you seen better retention rates?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you. So the newest iteration of onboarding, we've been doing all of these things for the past, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 months. We started the process more than a year ago. So step by step, the implementation of onboarding has really changed over the last 1.5 years since we started our training team. So at first it was just like, okay, at least we have a plan. And then it was, okay, now we have a plan and we're starting communication. And now it's, okay, now we have this, plus now we have a video. So that's something, the process itself has evolved. We started with baby steps and tried to introduce the most impactful things first. And now we're able to add in all these fun little details, like extras that, like the sprinkles on top of the ice cream. Now at least we have the scoop of ice cream. Now we're able to put all the fun little extras on top there to really improve the experience even more. We have gotten positive feedback from our staff who are going through the onboarding system. I think above all, some of the best feedback that we've gotten is like, oh, I feel like I'm part of a team. Like I feel that sense of team through this process. So that's wonderful. And also, we really focus on making sure people know where the resources are. Like you don't have to know it all now. You're going to learn a lot over the next couple months, but here's where you can come back for it when you need it. And the retention, I'll reveal our retention numbers at the end. So yeah, you can see what that impact really looks like for us. Anything else before we move on?
Let me do one more check. Nope, that is all for right now.
Great. So now we're going to move on to our internal training. One of our goals with internal training, one of our goals is to spread pronoia. I don't know if anyone has heard this term before. It's basically the opposite of paranoia. This term was coined by Brian Little, who's a psychologist who specializes in group dynamics. And it's the concept that it's the delusional belief that others are plotting your well-being. So we're doing that like in a non-scary way, I think, but we as a training team are trying to make it so that you have the resources to be able to succeed.
And one of the ways we're plotting our staff's well-being is we have several different buckets of sort of larger training events that we put on as an organization. And you can see those different buckets of training events here on your screen. But in addition to these larger ones that we're displaying, we have other opportunities for micro trainings as well. So trainings could occur at sub-regional team meetings, or else our business services team has a lunch and learn training session that they put on as well. So I'm hoping I can go in and dive in a little bit deeper to one of these trainings for you. So this is a look at the agenda for one of our all-staff training events. So this is an all-day training event, or a mostly all-day training event, where our staff comes together to learn about relevant topics for everybody and sort of as a group refocus on our mission, vision, and values. We also like to bring in guest speakers for our all-staffs, whether they be from local businesses or partner organizations, so that our staff can sort of see and hear the impact that we're having on the region as a whole. And then in addition to our all staffs, we have the other trainings as well. So Winning Wednesday is something that we put on pretty regularly. There are topics that apply to most, and we typically do it about 1 to 2 times a month. Some of the topics we've seen for Winning Wednesday include a new on-the-job training process that affected multiple departments in the organization, some information on our new incumbent worker training, or information on like open enrollment for healthcare and things like that. Talent forums is a more in the weeds sort of thing for our frontline staff. It gets into the weeds about a lot of the program related topics such as case noting or data validation, things like that. And those happen fairly regularly, bi-weekly. And then in addition to those, we have standalone trainings that we put on as well. Those are as needed. And they can be on anything from, resume topics, resume training, or rolling out a new tool or a new program or things like that.
So one of the ways, this is a tool that we use to help us decide which bucket of training or how we want to approach something, how we want to roll out a training for a certain topic that's come up. We do a who, what, when, where, why, and how analysis. I remember learning this when I was in like 4th grade with Mrs. Fletcher. And I remember thinking, oh, this just applies to like birthday invitations. But no, it applies to what we're doing here when we're deciding how we're going to roll out a training for someone. So it helps us determine what type of training is going to be best for the topic at hand and the details of implementation. This really kind of prompts that idea of looking at user-centered design and thinking of the end product for our users or for our employees that we're going to be training. And over the course of a couple of years, we've really refined who to invite to which training. So that took us some time to kind of get comfortable with. It was a little bit of a struggle to nail down, but it really helps us to have those multiple venues that Tom was sharing, so that we have venues for our audiences that, so we know kind of where to fit it. So at first, when we were trying to plan all staff events, it was an amalgamation of all different types of training for all the different types of roles that we had. And then we started, trying to distill that down more and having it function so that it's an event for all of us to really benefit together. And then we have these other events where, if you really need that deep dive into more training, we can do that. We have the ability and the venues to do that. So this is kind of how we walked through one particular training topic where we were looking at a new procedure training. And we knew we needed one specific group within our organization to get all that information because we wanted to keep things consistent and teach a new procedure. So 2 weeks before the implementation of the new procedure, we did a virtual video type of training because that's what we do now. And it works, it works pretty well. And so that first exposure, really before we even did that, was through the learning management system, or the LMS, which we're going to talk about in just a few minutes here. We demonstrated that information in a virtual meeting and then did a follow-up with a question and answer session and specific guides at the end to make sure people had the tools they needed to implement the new procedure. Now, a lot of kind of how we proceed with trainings is dependent on feedback that we get from surveys. And we happen to use Microsoft Forms. You've heard us talk about many Microsoft applications so far, but we use Forms. We find it really easy to use, and it's user-friendly. It's easy for us to use all the information later to kind of analyze and look and see what our impact was. Also, it creates word clouds now, which I think is really cool. So you'll see like question number 3, what information was most useful to you. It's an open-ended answer, so people type in their answers. The end result of that feedback is it will put all of those into a word cloud so you can see a visual of what's kind of coming up the most, which is really exciting. And also all this data comes out to you in an Excel spreadsheet at the end, so it's really easy to review all that information. And some of the top suggestions that we see coming out of survey data are things like wanting more time in breakout rooms, because it's a great way to kind of synthesize that information together as a group and dig in and talk about the details together. I feel like there's almost never enough time in breakout groups, so we're always working on that, trying to pace ourselves to ensure we have enough time in those breakout rooms. And also, we find our staff really enjoy scenarios, so we try to incorporate as much scenario-based learning that we can into our training. So we're able to, with this feedback, adapt to needs, and people have a say in their training too, which I think just makes it kind of a nice democratic process.
So in addition to our larger training events, we also have we've mentioned it a couple of times, our LMS, or our learning management system, which is an online platform that hosts courses for our staff to take. So as we mentioned previously, we have subject matter experts here at Upper Peninsula Michigan Works, so they can be experts on specific tools or programs. We leverage them and their knowledge. We bring them in to create courses in our LMS, since they're the experts on these topics. So we have courses on there, and then we also use our LMS for approvals as well. So when we bring new staff on and we want them to review the handbook, we can just put it right into the LMS, and they can check an acknowledgement box in there that they've read the handbook. So for our LMS, we use Talent LMS is the name of the platform. There's multiple different platforms you can use, but that's just the one that we found that would fit best for our needs. We use the basic package, which gives us up to 100 users. And we have the ability to replace logins as people leave the organization, so we can repurpose them. It costs us roughly $129 a month. And as of right now, we currently have 130 courses in our LMS. And we've done a total of 3 months, 9 days, and 17 hours worth of training as an organization. So we've gotten a lot of use out of this. So between the learning management system courses and the other training events, and well, there's a lot of information we need to get out there. So we've got a couple of different ways we go about doing that. The first is we have the option of sharing training blurbs in our training corner, which is a part of our weekly newsletter for our organization. So we have a spot in there where we can put updates for courses on the LMS, or we can mention reminders for trainings or surveys that people need to complete. it's a way for us to quickly share information without having to send out training email blasts to people. That can get pretty overwhelming if there's a lot of trainings coming up. So it's just a nice, easy way. People always know where to look as well, since it's always going to be in the newsletter. You can just take a look for the training corner in there. You can expect to see it. That's not the only way we disseminate our information, though. We have our Sharepoint as well, where we post news stories. So if we have information that won't quite fit into a blurb in the newsletter, we can create a news post on our Sharepoint site that can go a little bit more in depth for that information. So if we need to share some resources or maybe a how-to guide, this would be the way we would do it. And we can even link from our newsletter to these posts. So that way, if somebody's reading the newsletter, they can just click on one of our links in there and they can be brought to a longer how-to guide. So we're not taking up the entire newsletter with our guide.
We also built an intranet for our SharePoint site. So if anyone has ever used SharePoint, this might look a little familiar to you, but so we created a an intranet site to keep us all connected and to show, all those other team sites where you can go for information. This sort of unites everything in one place. So this helps us share information about our organization and our teams. It's great for onboarding because it's sort of the introduction to how our organization is structured. And I'm going to show you in the next slide. This is like a collage of all the different things you can see if you click through our intranet site there. There is a place where you can see all about our teams. So it kind of gives you a layout of where people are located and who works where and which part of the UP, who we serve. So giving information about our organization itself and what we do, where we do it in all of our locations down there in the bottom right-hand corner. And I have to say, we're really lucky we live in such a picturesque area because this part of our website is really beautiful. These are just shots of picturesque places in each of our counties that we serve. So it's pretty awesome there. And we also have a little area where we can share information about our mission, vision, and core values, which you're seeing up on our page there. So it really helps us share the story of our organization so everyone can understand our why, what we do and how we do it together as a team. We also have pathways for each of our roles to continue to develop in trainings that are going to benefit kind of what they do in their role within the organization. So things like for all of our business services team members, they will go through the business services professional training. We have a lot of our talent team working on the career development facilitator training. We have people going through the Academy certified resume writer training so that we can have designated specialists who can help all of us, know how to write a killer resume. We have people getting ready to go through career coach training and project management training because these will help people, develop within their roles. And we've seen an increase in staff requesting training to help them develop, which I think is really exciting. It just shows that people are feeling, I think, energized and enabled to go out and learn more to do awesome work for us. So what we do as a training team is we coordinate all of these trainings for our staff. We help take care of all of the registration and the payment information. And because these are, trainings directly related to their jobs, people can work on this training, during their regular day. We also, as an organization, often tuition reimbursement as a benefit for staff, which is a great way to, finish up a degree. So I actually was able to take advantage of this, and I completed my master's and got some assistance through the organization. And it's really a great benefit to show that we value education and training of our staff.
And part of coordinating these pathway advancements for our staff is we like to have a list of opportunities related to their role available on our SharePoint site for them to sort of browse and enroll into trainings that they see fit for. So on your screen is a visual of sort of what our list looks like. It'll have the name of the training, the provider that's presenting the training, cost, pretty much all the details you'll need on it, as well as a link to register for it. So staff members can sort of browse the list and find opportunities that fit their role. And what's really great about this list is that it's built directly into our SharePoint site to increase the visibility of it. We used to have it on an Excel spreadsheet that was sort of buried in our file system, but we've done away with the spreadsheets. So we have this as sort of a way to promote these opportunities to our staff members. And we also, with the newsletter that I mentioned earlier, a lot of times we will promote these opportunities in that newsletter. So if we put something new on this list, staff will know to come here and check it out. For visibility purposes, you can also view the list as a calendar, sort of like this. So this is great because it's a great visual for staff to sort of see how different training events fit into their schedule. And then extended trainings, you can sort of see as visual how long they last. So if something's going on for several weeks, you can see that before you sign up for it.
So before we move on to our next section on public workshops, Sally, do we have any questions or comments about that last section?
We do. We've got a couple questions. So the first one regarding our learning management system, is it 100 users for the entire year, or is it per month, or how does that 100 users work?
So it's 100 total. So 100 total, if that answer makes sense. So, we do a whole year subscription for it. So we're not renewing every month. We just renew every year, but you can go month to month if you want. But it is 100 total that we have. So because of how many people we have in our organization, that fit what we could do. Was that was the full question?
Yes.
Okay.
So then the next
follow up on that, let me know.
Yep, I'll watch the chat. So if you need more information, please put that in the chat right now and I'll circle back to it. Okay, so the next question is, how do you decide when to create an LMS course versus offer a live training, or do you usually do both?
That's a really good question. Yeah, and I think, we like to do, if we're rolling out something new and we need to give a little bit of information on it, like pre-information, the LMS is a great way to start that, because what we can do is continue to build that course as we go. So we've done this before, where we'll say, okay, before our live training, will you please go and read this information packet that we've made up? So we can get it all staged up in the LMS, where the person will go then read the information, then we'll have the actual live training, and then we can post the recording of our live training in the LMS, and then we can have all associated materials from that training in the LMS. So it's a neat little package to hold everything. It kind of keeps a record of our training. I think as much as possible, when we're teaching something new that's like a new procedure or something big, we try to make sure that we're doing something live with it. But we always have the LMS as a great backup. LMS also works great for just like confirming some of that information that's been covered, right? So like we've done a live training and now you can go back through and kind of remember some of that information through courses that we've developed. So it's a great holding place for not only, stuff that we've created, but other trainings that we've attended too. So like if if there's a free training out there, we can link to that free training in the LMS. Because we try to avoid like just putting people in the LMS all day, because that's boring. But it's a great tool to partner up with other things, and people too will like use the LMS if they have some time between things, like for people who are just learning a new job or, they're new, they can kind of fill in the gaps with that a little bit. Like, okay, I'm about to have an in-person training on WIOA. Maybe I should do a little pre-reading first on WIOA. You can do it that way.
Okay, so that was all the questions we have so far.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so we'll jump into public workshops. So these are services for our job seekers, and these fall within the realm of training as well. So we help get these going and get people ready to teach these workshops. So we assist staff to provide workshops that meet the work search requirement. So I know we went through the workplace excellence training for facilitators with some of the other Michigan Works Association in the area. So shout out to anyone else who went through that training with us. We are offering 5 of those workshops through our services: communication ability, dependability, workability, adaptability, and suitability. This was a strategic goal that we had for our organization, was just working on teaching those workplace readiness skills. And so this is how we're doing it. And our facilitators also get to develop, through their own personal development and professional development by becoming certified instructors in this new series of workshops that we're offering. Okay, so now we get to talk about results. This is what we've all been waiting for, right? So our turnover now is 12%, and it was 45% at our peak. And so we are making a dent in that, in that goal that we're working toward. In terms of tenure, in 3 years, we've gone from just over 1 year of tenure to 4 years, which means our average length of employment for someone is 4 years. So we have a goal of 5. So we're making movement on that as well. So we think that this really helps us better serve our clients because we are better equipped and more confident in our roles. We feel comfortable with the information, and we can better assist people who are coming to us with questions and looking for help.
And we found that having our unit focused on building connections and building our team has really helped us transition into this new style of working that has really emerged since the COVID-19 pandemic. And we found this through the learning management system, using internal webinars and a better use of the tools that we have. We've been able to sort of solve a lot of the issues that we were seeing.
And you see an example on our page here. We took a screenshot of, or a picture of a new person's desk. We don't have any sad cubicles around here. So we have a little bit of a challenge going with, I think, who can do the best first day decorations for our new employees. So we try to make it a fun, exciting place to work. So that sums up the main material that we wanted to talk about today. And we're happy to take any questions that you all might have.
So far, it looks like, okay, we do have another question. Is the state's WIOA manual linked to your Sharepoint system?
We do have information about how to get all that. We have a policy SharePoint site that has all the information that you would need about any of our programs. And Sally, you probably know even better than me about what we have in that policy site.
Yeah, so our policy at SharePoint does show any of our local stuff, but it also directs to the state's site so that we always have the current version. In the past, we've put it on, and then of course it changes and you're updating it up every so often. So we have changed that system now with the training team to be links to the website.
And that's something we're always really cognizant of. And thank you, Sally, for bringing up that point of like making sure we have the most current information. because really sometimes, Tom, like, do you feel like most of your day is making sure, not most of your day, but
Too much of my day spent updating things.
yeah, making
Materials.
sure that we have the most current, up-to-date information, and that's something we have to think about in our LMS, in the learning management system. You know, you are regularly like checking those courses to make sure it's the most current, most up-to-date. We're working with our subject matter experts on that. That's a great question.
I do not have any other questions in the chat at this point. You have a lot of kudos.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and do my little spiel, but we do have 10 minutes, so I'm sure Hannah and Tom would be happy to stick around. You could even request permission to share your video and audio, and we can have a conversation. So that is the end of our presentation for today. So thank you, Hannah and Tom, for taking the time to present to everyone, and we appreciate everyone who attended. I hope you were able to get some takeaways, and it sounded like it from the chat, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm going to post another link to the survey in the chat so that you can fill that out, and thank you for attending the Michigan Works Conference, and we look forward to another day tomorrow.